The finger pointing you saw from lawmakers on the House floor spilled outside when we spoke with some of them. There clearly is some urgency to reach a deal with the clock running out. In the span of just 24 hours, crooks stole more than a dozen of these side view mirrors. Minimum wage in Virginia just went up 41 cents to $12.41 an hour. Bucher owns restaurants all around the DMV and says this will help Virginia businesses. I mean, you'll see branches like this just everywhere on the ground. That's if you're lucky. There were 76 high-rise apartments and condos in Montgomery County without sprinklers in every unit. Now, that was back in 2023. The next year, that fell down to 73 after. That's why these cameras capture everything, no matter how small the violation. Whether you speed through a stop sign like this driver did, or you merely tap your brakes for a rolling stop, residents are going to actually have to pay for all of the water coming out of this fire hydrant. And this water is coming up to my knees. We could just slosh around here. This place will be absolutely packed with fans rocking the red, waving these rally towels. Actually, let's go ahead and walk down because it's just the other side of this block where we saw another tree collapse on top of a home in front of Union Station. I'm going to get up here because earlier this evening, protesters got up on this statue. You can still see the signs that are left behind. More graffiti right here. You have more graffiti right there. It's not just members of Congress who have the ball in their court. And the Maryland delegation has raised questions, and that's why we asked Fairfax County officials, why choose crossing guard? Now, keep in mind, right now, the D.C. Superior Court is woefully short of judges. They need 9 to fill their 62 spots.
Packaging the evidence.
And after the evidence is processed and packaged comes another really important part of the process. From here, officers go ahead and take the evidence to a safe and secure room. You follow me, and you could even still see some shards of glass on the ground right here. But you have all of this damage right here where the bus crashed through, and you see how big some of these pieces of glass are. I'm holding one of those pieces of glass. We've all heard of dining and dashing. That's when a customer comes into a restaurant, grabs a bite to eat, and then skips out on the bill, leaving the restaurant without paying. Well, Okonomi Asian Grill here in Fairfax is dealing with a similar issue, but this time the scammer in question is using DoorDash. A restaurant's kitchen can be a fast-paced, stressful environment.
2 of them are garlic rice.
Yeah. For Okonomi Asian Grill, tempers are sizzling after police say one man has used DoorDash to steal food from them.
While he's picking it up, he'll cancel the order. Basically, we're out of money.
Restaurant owner Alex Kang capturing this scam on his security cameras, and he's hoping to turn the heat up on the suspect, who Fairfax City Police are also looking for.
There's also a button when it's picked up, and if my workers don't press that button before like handing over the food, then they have, like a 10-second gap, basically, where they can cancel the order.
Kang has caught this suspect on camera 4 times since April, most recently this past Monday, stealing a total of $150.
Oh, we got orders.
He's now putting up a reward of the same amount for information that leads to this suspect's arrest.
Do we need to make more chicken? One of the teriyakis is going to be a double.
Kang says this one scammer is making it hard to keep his business running.
We're a new restaurant, so, like, sales are still minuscule, right? Monday's incident, that was 10% of the takeout orders. It affects the bottom line, obviously.
King says he filed police reports and contacted DoorDash before our report. But it wasn't until 7 News on Your Side reached out to DoorDash that a spokesperson confirmed they have reimbursed Kang and deactivated the suspect's accounts. And now, Kang is speaking out.
All right, we're good to go.
Yep. Good night.
Take care, okay?
To make sure other restaurants are not victimized.
Other restaurant owners in the area can't speak English. English is their second language. This guy, if he's doing it to me, he's guaranteed doing it to other restaurants.
In Fairfax, Christian Flores, 7 News. Third time's a charm for the House. After finger pointing and playing the blame game last night, they were able to overwhelmingly approve the 3rd version of the funding bill with about 6 hours left to spare before a shutdown. The RFK Stadium measure, meanwhile, was still cut out, but you can still expect to hear a lot more discussions for that measure next year.
We are excited about this outcome tonight. We're grateful that everyone stood to do the right thing.
A sigh of relief from Speaker Mike Johnson after the House approves a spending bill to keep the government funded and avoid a shutdown in the waning hours before the deadline.
We are really grateful that tonight, in bipartisan fashion, with overwhelming majority of votes, we passed the American Relief Act of 2025.
The government stays open. We got a lot of provisions that we wanted, including disaster relief for people who are in desperate need of it, farm bill assistance, that's going out to farmers who need that as well.
One casualty during negotiations, the RFK Stadium measure, which would have handed control of the land to D.C., a necessary step for the city to potentially build a stadium to lure the Commanders back to the district. Musk singled out this measure on X when it was included in the first iteration of the bill, and his fingerprints appeared to remain on the final bill.
Oh, I just talked to Elon. We had a great conversation. He fully understands what we're doing.
Why was the RFK Stadium measure cut out of this funding bill? Was that as a direct result of Elon Musk singling it out in a tweet?
No, there was no real controversy with it. I think at the end, everybody recognized it didn't have any cost. It actually saves the government money. But the RFK transfer was good for the District of Columbia and the taxpayers of America. But a lot of those things fell by the wayside because you saw a lot of the members wanted a much more scaled down product to vote on. D.C. Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton released a statement saying she was disappointed the stadium measure was scrapped, but expressed optimism it could pass next year, though it will likely again face a challenge from the Maryland delegation. It looks like that this RFK Stadium measure could still be brought up as a bill when the next Congress gavels in. It could be brought up in reconciliation. The Maryland delegation, you guys are still paying close attention to where that direction goes, right?
The bill, frankly, had problems. I mean, this is a transfer of federal land to the District of Columbia to build a football stadium at zero expense, and they get it for 100 years. So at a minimum, there should be a fair market value paid. We'd love to have the Commanders stay in Prince George's County. We think it's the best fit.
On Capitol Hill, Christian Flores, 7 News. Here's the situation. Your loved one, suffering from dementia, has wandered away from home. That's when Sergeant Justin Welch and Captain Christy Kiernan of the Fauquier County Sheriff's Office answered the call.
So what we're going to do is we're going to cut our locator on.
This very situation played out Tuesday when they found a 91-year-old man with dementia. Fortunately, this family is enrolled with Project Lifesaver. It allows families to place a wristband that emits a radio signal on a loved one suffering from dementia, Alzheimer's, or autism.
We can actually look for multiple people and the radio frequencies not bounce off of one another.
So right now I've actually hidden myself right here next to this bale of hay on this tractor trailer, kind of simulating an opportunity for these deputies and these investigators to find someone who has wandered off into some unfamiliar terrain. Let's see if they can find me.
So I'm not getting anything over here. I'm starting to pick it up a little bit more. The needle's starting to jump a little bit. Okay, so the needle jumped to 2, so we're going to start going in this direction. Those beeps, similar to a heartbeat monitor and a reminder that every second counts. When you're talking about people with cognitive challenges, usually they're not dressed appropriately, so time is of the essence. Once we start getting a clear signal, we can switch to a near function to see if he's really close. There he is.
I didn't pose much of a challenge. They found me in just over 5 minutes. That was definitely not your typical game of hide and go seek, right? In the 2 searches this team successfully conducted, the longest it has taken them to find the missing person is 30 minutes.
We go, we have to change the batteries every 60 days, so we develop a rapport with the caregiver and the client themselves. I always tell families I'd much rather go and change a $2.50 battery than have to tell a loved one that their loved one's not coming home. The family of the man found earlier this week declined an interview, but provided a statement saying, "We have no idea how things would have turned out without Project Lifesaver, but it could have been not favorable. We really pushed that program and can't thank enough everyone who came out the other night." In Fauquier County, Christian Flores, 7 News. The sidewalk off of the ARC's property is the closest we could bring our cameras to the meeting inside. But we did go inside without our cameras. Once we were there, we certainly saw some very passionate debate over how the community should respond in the voting booth in November.
And now you have a major controversy with him being charged with bribery.
Despite laying out these stakes with Councilmember Trayon White's bribery allegations, cameras were not allowed inside the town hall for the ward to discuss next steps because of miscommunication between event organizers and the ARC.
Media is not allowed in with cameras. What do you say to people who say that hurts the transparency, hurts the credibility of this meeting?
Okay, I'm not going to argue with the ARC and not letting the press in because I respect the ARC.
You telling me you can't allow the media in there?
But 7 News on your side went inside to shoot the fiery exchanges with their cell phones.
He has not been displaced. He still is the Ward 8 councilman right now today.
So you think he's going to help us now after he has been taken by the FBI? I don't think so.
These opinions spilling outside of the building. Since White's arrest, Ward 8 residents have been divided on what's the best course of action.
We need elected officials in Ward 8 who represent the constituents that live here, who deserve a better quality of life.
I want to support our council member until he is proven guilty, tried and proven guilty.
7 News asked White's office if he had a response to voters expressing concerns over these allegations, but a spokesperson says they are not commenting. White's council colleagues have stated they support a committee to discuss disciplinary action, including stripping him of committee assignments. These major decisions as we near the November election.
I want due process to take place. I believe in justice. We're not the judge. We're not the jury.
I mean, I'm not going to vote for him when he's still facing criminal charges. That doesn't make sense.